This episode of the Flush Podcast is brought to you by Federal Premium Ammunition, Benelli Shotguns, and Carlson's Choke Tubes. Today, we're talking bird hunting in the land of the midnight sun. Jim McCann has lived in Alaska for more than 50 years. He's an upland bird hunter, world-renowned photographer, writer, and author of the book Upland Hunting in Alaska. Welcome to another episode of the Flush Podcast. I'm Travis Frank. I'm your host. Brandon Morton is our producer. As always, I'm thankful for the amazing job he does to keep us connected with people all around the uplands. Brandon, thank you. Last week was our season debut for the Flush on the Outdoor Channel. It was a special episode for me for two reasons. One, I got to hunt on South Dakota's open prairie while riding on horseback, which is an experience that I really have a hard time describing with words. It's something that's it's incredible. And two, most importantly, I got to share it with my wife. It was her very first hunt. I heard from several viewers that really enjoyed the show. So I just wanted to say thank you for sending me messages. I appreciate every single one of them. And I also know that there are a lot of men that listen to this show, husbands. So guys, I just want to say this. My wife told me several times during and after our hunt that she was really attracted to me, watching me in my element out in the field. So I just really feel like sharing those kind of adventures together can help strengthen your marriage. So it's a little bit off topic, but not really. So if you have a chance and your wife is willing to hunt with you, I strongly encourage you to take her along. Big shout out to Jeff Gillespie at Tinker Kennels for hosting us on that adventure. He was our guest last week on this podcast. If you missed that show, I encourage you to give it a listen, learn more about his operation. It is a world-class bird hunting adventure. I promise you that. This week on The Flush, Bill Shirk pitches a tent on public ground in Wisconsin. They hunt for rough grouse and woodcock ahead of a massive fall storm front. You can catch that episode and all of our episodes each week on the Outdoor Channel. They air Monday, Tuesday, Friday, and Saturday. All right, today's guest checks in all the way from one of the most beautiful places on planet Earth. Jim McCann, welcome to the podcast.
Well, thanks. I'm glad to be here today, Travis. I'm a little jealous of you.
It's sure a pleasure. Why are you jealous?
Well, I'm a horseman too, and but I've never hunted grouse horseback, so yeah, I'm a little jealous. Good for you.
There's something special about it. Just like all the things that we love about hunting, and then you just get to add that one more piece to it. You're riding on a horse. You have this kind of relationship with the horse, and there's just something nostalgic about it. I've done it twice. And I'm just like, I want to do it again. It is one of those things where you never get really tired because the horse really does all of the work for you. So you just really have a view to enjoy it and enjoy that time with the people that you're with. And Jim, are you a married man?
I am. 100 years.
100 years, nice. Does your wife hunt with you?
No, not at all. She tolerates me though.
Well, Jim, where do you live exactly?
Fairbanks, Alaska, the Golden Heart City, right in the middle of the interior, and right where the best bird hunting is in Alaska.
That you call that the best, or I mean, is that?
Oh yeah.
Is that where that's the spot? I've actually been to Fairbanks, and anytime I tell people about Alaska, I say it's just one of those places that a video camera or a camera. It'll show you beauty, but until you're standing in it, the all-encompassing view in every direction, it's something you have to experience firsthand.
Yeah, Fairbanks has a few rough edges, but the good part of it is that if you start in Fairbanks as the hub of the wheel, you can go on any of the roads out of Fairbanks for 100 miles and find good rough grouse woods, some sharp-tail areas, and you can stretch out from there and find lots of sharp-tails. Go up high and find ptarmigan. So it's a mixed bag.
Gotcha. Were you born in Alaska or did you move there?
No, I'm a kid from upstate New York. I always dreamed of going to Alaska, and as life went on, and I took the oath to serve my country in '69, and after that period, I decided I'm going to make the big move, and came to Alaska, and been here ever since.
How long ago was that? When did you move there?
I think I moved here in '71 or something like that. 70.
Did you know what you were going to do when you moved there?
No. Well, I knew that, I have a family of law enforcement back in New York, and I always wanted to be in law enforcement, so I had my sights set on that, and applied, and was hired with the Alaska State Troopers, and I did that for close to 30 years, and chasing, the monsters of murderers and such, and had enough of that. But when I wasn't doing that sort of work, which took me all over the United States, I had to have something else to keep my mind off of that kind of human behavior. So I started photographing wildlife and my outdoor pursuits, fly fishing, bird hunting, big game hunting, and I just started writing about it, and that became a real passion. And after I retired, I just do that full time.
Gotcha. So this was more of just a hobby, but now, I mean, are you, I would say you're probably back to full-time work again, aren't you?
Well, not really. I just write and photograph when I feel like it. So no,
Okay.
I'm getting on there in age, so I stay pretty active though, and
Gotcha.
but no regular work, no more, no thanks.
Okay. Well, I appreciate, like a lot of our listeners here, thank you for your service and all
You
you've
bet.
done for our country. When did do you remember how long ago you picked up that camera and started taking photos?
It was in the late '70s, I think it was, that I got more serious about it. As part of my work, we didn't have crime labs to come out and do our scenes. Everything I did myself, and all my photography was all my scene work, everything, surveillance work, everything was done by me. So I was going to college at night to finish up, and I decided to take all the photography classes, and finished all them. And on my part time, I did some studio work and shot a few weddings and continued my wildlife work, but it just got carried away, I guess, and until I really settled on the outdoor stuff, and got real serious, and I've been that way ever since. So I started publishing in I think about 84, 83, something like that, and with the local newspaper, and then that just kind of caught on, and then selling a few photographs here and there. But then
Gotcha.
I read all the outdoor magazines, and then I figured one day I could write this. Well, it turns out I couldn't, but I got a lot of rejection slips. But rejection slips, I learned, were pretty good.
Really?
Yeah, you turn them over and they're blank, and you can make notes on there about what they said, the editor said, and maybe make some changes. And then back then, I had to go back to the typewriter. And I'm really dating myself here, but yeah, typewriters. Good Lord. Everything is easy now. Photography is easier with digital, and writing is easier with Word. It's come a long way.
It certainly has, but you mentioned the rejection part of it. That goes for all walks of life. I've been rejected several times with some of my work, and you can choose to get down about it, or you can choose to take the rejection and make yourself better. I mean, there's
That's
there's
right.
always that option. So I'm certain you've learned a lot. So maybe you can't even say this, but What was your title with Alaska's law enforcement? What was your job title? I mean, your photography there got you into outdoor photography, but what did you do?
Well, I was the murder guy. I was their senior investigator for most of my career. I got I got into the investigative section when I was just a, oh, I don't know, 23, 24-year old, something like that, and stayed there and made quite a name for myself and investigated a lot of cases. And unfortunately, back then, Alaska had yeah, it was a real black eye with the pipeline brought a lot of bad guys here, and I had more experience shoved my way real quickly than other law enforcement gets elsewhere. So I gained a lot of experience quickly,
Wow.
including 3 serial murderers and yeah, all kinds of crazy stuff that's water under the bridge now.
Wow. Wow. I bet you could write a hell of a book on that career as well as the book that you wrote about upland bird hunting. So you've written the book Upland Hunting in Alaska.
Yes.
When did you write that book and why did you write it?
Well, nobody had written anything about the bird hunting here, and there weren't that many bird hunters. And so part of it was my capitalism background, and the other part was just wanting to share with other people that the joys of bird hunting and what you're missing. Alaska is, when hunters think about Alaska, they if they've never been here before, their thoughts generally go to beautiful Dall rams up on granite cliffs and bull moose with antlers as large as barn doors and big brown bears and that sort of thing. But you just don't think of it as bird hunting, a bird hunting paradise. And neither did I when I first got here. As a kid growing up in New York, us kids would go down into the woods and we'd just kind of, poke around and see what's going and, play army and cowboys and Indians and then we'd start to, observe wildlife. And eventually, I picked up a pellet gun and went hunting down in that same woods. And the biggest thing we were looking for was big birds. We didn't know what they were, but we knew they were big birds that would scare the bejeebers out of you when they flushed out of a thicket. And I think I wasn't quite 13 years old yet when I shot my first big bird. And as the decades go by, that bird's getting higher and higher off the ground. But I think it was I think it was standing there looking at me. Uh, but I went over and picked it up and took it home and to my neighbor, and he was a hunter of sorts. And I said, "Hey, Andy, what have I got here?" Well, you got a partridge. A partridge? So I started to study that, and I bought the Lenny LaRue books and everything else that I could find, and that partridge was a rough grouse, and boy, I fell in love, and just got my first shotgun and started pursuing those birds. And all that to say that when I moved to Alaska, I had the same goals, was the big game hunting. I wanted to get out there and do all that, and I did. But it was early on. I was on my horse and I was riding through the aspen woods up on a hillside here, not too far from home, and there it was again. One of those big birds scared the bejesus out of me and the horse I was riding, and a rough grouse. I'll be darned. So I started looking around, and boy, there were a lot of rough grouse. So that started my upland hunting in Alaska. Then I moved on to ptarmigan, and then suddenly started to be a student of sharptails too. And I didn't know anything about sharp-tailed grouse, well, or ptarmigan until I got here. But ptarmigan were easy enough, but sharp-tails not quite so much. But boy, I tell you, I've actually learned to have a great time with sharp-tailed grouse here in Alaska, and most people don't even realize they're here.
Was there somebody that taught you how to hunt these birds, or was it just you getting out into the wilderness and out into the tundra and just walking to kind of observe on your own? Or did you have somebody that a local that grew up doing it that you'd hunt with?
No, there was nobody here hunting birds, and people looked at me funny anyhow. But actually, it's still to this day for most people here. When you say hunting birds, that means stopping by the coffee shack, getting a tall coffee, and driving a gravel road with your 410 or 22 in the truck and shooting everything along the road. But people still kind of laugh when they see a guy with a bird dog, and you actually shoot them flying. Yeah, they do. They fly, yeah, but it's catching on now. Actually, there's more and more pointing dogs, a lot of flushing dogs, a lot of bird hunting going on now. But the good thing is that there's a lot of room, and there's a lot of room between hunters, and
Right.
that's part of the beauty. I mean, you can go to other places and maybe find more rough grouse in a covert, but you might also see a lot of spent shells and tire tracks and whatever, or other orange clad hunters, and I don't have to deal with that here. So that's part of the paradise quotient, I guess. Even in a low year, I mean, if I'm not finding all that many rough grouse in my covers, I'm all alone, and you see lots of other wildlife while you're in there too. So it's a great place. It's been good.
Well, it's a spectacular place. I mean, it's incredible. Just it's awe-inspiring just walking around out there.
Yep.
I kind of want to, I'd like to break down probably each individual bird here, but I guess I didn't know the law enforcement side of your story here, and I am intrigued a little bit to ask a couple more questions if you don't mind. Is that was the upland bird hunting, was that just like your mental escape from everything? Is that what really got you into it, or was it something
Well,
else?
yeah, I mean, all of that. I had to have another life. I still have. People talk about PTSD. I mean, I can't drive down a road around here. I mean, I've investigated. Well, our estimates are at about 100 murders, and that's a lot for one person. And I still go to places, and I see I have memories of what I had found there, or what happened along this highway or that highway, or yeah, it's all over the place. But you need something to get away from that. That's what happens with law enforcement people if they have nothing else to take them away from that everyday business.
Mm.
That well. It, you can look in Minneapolis right now and see what it must be like to be a police officer, in Seattle and a few other places. But yeah, you have to have something else, and I came here to enjoy the outdoors, so that was the other side of me. After retirement,
Well,
it's consumed me.
I
Yeah,
mean, I can't imagine that some of the things you've seen, and I've never actually really talked about this before in public, but I in my area there was about a person that went missing a couple years ago, and I helped with the search and rescue team because I had access to a lake where this person was presumed missing, and I explained to the dive team, how the lake contours and all that kind of stuff, and I used my sonar to help them search for a couple of days, and I actually found the body on my own on
yeah,
accident, and
yep,
that visual
yep.
of finding that person is with me forever. I can
Oh yeah,
see it very much like it was just this morning.
yep.
So I can't imagine what you've seen and what you've
Oh yeah,
experienced.
yep. Children.
Oh,
I mean, just and then probably I don't know, 200 suicides. Yeah, all kinds of stuff. It's yep, but it was quite an exciting job, and I was definitely the student, and I stayed after it. And like I say, I chased murderers all over the United States. I mean, my family just had to get used to it. So did my bosses too. I wasn't the most favored employee because I had my own travel budget, and if I had a tip that I needed to be in Miami, they'd wake up in the morning and come to work and have a staff meeting and wonder where I was. And I said, well, I think he's in Miami. Yeah, I was always kind of a thorn in their side that way, but I always came home as a winner. So it's I can't argue with that. But maybe it was luck. But anyhow, I got out of there a winner, and now I do what my other love, and I sure do love it. I'm sitting here in my office, and right now I'm staring at about a curl and a quarter doll ram that I photographed up in the mountains last year, and I'll be up there again this year, up at about 5,000 feet up there, climbing around on the crags, and
Wow.
the sheep are just amazing, and to do it at 71 years old, that's I don't know, I guess that's a personal feat for me too. So I'm going to keep right on doing it.
Oh, that's fantastic. What keeps you going every day? I mean, there's a lot of people that would have said, I'll leave that to
Yeah.
the younger kids.
Nope, that angers me. I'm going to use up every bit I've got, and it hurts, But well, that COVID kind of quit me from 5 days a week at the gym, and I would have quit for the summer
Yeah.
anyhow, just because I'm out busy climbing around and like yesterday I've spent I don't know 5 hours in the woods photographing little kit fox at a den, and and then day before that I was with one of my bird dogs and hiking through the woods and found a brood of ruffed grouse. So I'm going to go back up there and try and find them on my own and photograph them. And it just keeps me going. I stay busy, drop down and do some push-ups in the morning. And I walk a lot. I don't jog so much anymore, but yeah, climb and just keep after it, man. It hurts, but that's okay.
Yeah. No, I love it. Man, you're a badass. How many days a year do you think you spend in the field?
Oh, gee, every day, I guess. I'm kind of wondering today, like I'm sitting here drinking a cup of coffee waiting for you, and I thought, man, I got to get going today, and I can't spend much time in the woods or at home rather. I'll be out doing whatever, hiking the woods with my dog, or just out stump shooting with my recurve bow, or doing something. I'm out every day.
Wow. Wow.
The
Well,
winter gets
it's
tough.
I was gonna say, so right now it's 90 degrees in Minnesota and it's about 90% humidity. What is it like in Alaska right now?
Oh, I think it's probably about 70 degrees, and not much humidity. It's pretty nice. It's been pretty nice.
And
We've been lucky. Yep.
how many hours of sunlight do you have right now?
Oh gosh. Well, being an old guy, I don't stay up too late, but every once in a while I do. I mean, it's basically not really dark at all at night. But there's a few hours now where you should put your headlights on, and they won't help much, but at least other people can see you. Um,
Mm.
June 20th was solstice, and that was our longest day. It really didn't get dark at all. Um, yeah, so it's an interesting place. It's a land of extremes. Some of the people are the land of extremes in that regard too.
Yeah.
I've talked about some of the monsters we've had around here, and it's life at the end of the road. The
Hmm.
farthest north place you can go, but the people are also to that extreme. They're also wonderful, just the greatest people in the world. So and the weather's just like it. It's either real good or really bad.
Hmm.
But
Well, so you talk about being at the farthest end of the road. I have been there. I think I took the Hall Road up to Prudhoe Bay.
oh wow,
Spent a couple of days up there. I've watched ptarmigan walk around me at 25 below zero in the Arctic Circle. It is awe-inspiring as well. I've met your people. There are wonderful people there, just like there are in bird country. There's a lot of really damn good people.
yep,
What?
yep.
Oh, go ahead. Did you have something to add to
No,
that?
I'm just in agreement. Yep.
Yep. So, without giving away every detail of your book, if I pick that up and read it, what am I going to learn?
Oh gosh. Yeah, I'm a fanatic. Um, I like dogs. Um, no, I mean I put a lot of biology in there too. I just and but I don't direct people to right to places to go hunting. I Same thing with fly fishing.
Okay.
Editors. I used to write a lot about fly fishing, and editors got real angry at me. And the big magazines dropped me because I always fished the same river, the Chosen River, and it looked different, but it was always named the Chosen River. And they finally said, "Where the hell is the Chosen River?" And I said, "It's pretty much where I choose to fish." But I'm I'm not I'm not directing anybody to where I fish or hunt. I'll give you some pretty good ideas. And like
Uh-huh.
for example, in Alaska, rough grouse are mostly found in the interior region, with Fairbanks as the hub. And you can drive out of town, like I say, for 100 miles, and basically look for south-facing hillsides of aspen with some pretty good understory, and their fall time food is high bush cranberries. Beyond that, it's just boot leather, just get out there and get her done. They're there.
Hmm.
They're
Hmm.
out there.
So Alaska has rough grouse, sharp-tailed grouse, spruce grouse, blue grouse, and then three ptarmigan species, right? Willow, rock, and whitetail. Is that
Whitetail.
right?
That's correct. That's
Oh,
correct.
okay. Which bird is the most challenging to hunt?
Hmm. Well, I think rough grouse still. It's they all have their little
Yeah,
deal,
the
but
king. Huh?
yeah, the king, yeah, the rough grouse is always they're always going to rule, because unless you're just driving along the road and shooting them standing there looking at you. But even then, they provide those guys with challenge, because they're not want to stand there as long as a spruce grouse will. But no, a rough grouse in front of a coming up in front of a pointing dog or a flushing dog and shooting flying, that's always going to be the toughest. But the good part of that, though, is if I could switch to sharp tails real quick. Something I need to say about that. It's really cool. Now, you hunted sharp tails
Mm-hmm.
horseback out in the open grasslands, the prairies. That's we
Yep.
get some of that too. They do hang in the grasslands here of sorts. It's not the same as your prairies you hunted, but they also sharp tails
Yep.
will also use edge cover, forest edge cover, and they like the park like areas. I mean, I've hunted thick aspen for rough grouse, and suddenly it opens up into a park like area where maybe 20 years ago there was a small wildfire or something, but it's grown back up a little bit. It's not as thick as good rough grouse cover, but it's pretty thick compared to what people normally hunt sharptails in. Man, I tell you, when all of a sudden in front of your dog standing there on point, you're expecting a rough grouse to come up, and all of a sudden 3, 5, 7, 8 or more sharptails come up cackling up through the trees. Oh, that's pretty exciting. And that's
Well,
it's
it's
pretty
interesting that.
what's that?
Oh, I was gonna say it's interesting that you say that because I've hunted sharp-tailed grouse in several different states. So now if you go in the Dakotas, South Dakota, you're talking shortgrass prairie. In
Yeah,
Minnesota, the sharp-tailed grouse, you could walk that grass all day long and rarely see a bird. You walk into a patch of willows, get
yeah,
ready, they're gonna
yeah.
explode. So they're different in different regions.
Yeah, they are. They are. And and I do hunt a lot of uh, farms here in the interior, and I hesitate to mention them because the farm owners, there's not many of them, and they get hammered pretty good. And I got special permission. At least my reputation did that for me. I get to hunt these private farms, but along with a great many poachers. A lot of people just disrespect other people's land and just get on there. But still, they flock to those farms, and it, rarely, well, not rarely, but not often do I find them right out in the grass either. A lot of times they're just along the edges of the windrows, and sometimes right in the middle of them. And man, it can be awesome shooting. whew. But, a lot of guys will, if I take somebody new with me, they'll say, man, I couldn't hardly see him with the trees. And I just got to chuckle, because, well, you're not a rough grouse hunter, are you? No,
Right.
yeah, that's a piece of cake for me when the leaves come off those trees in the windrows. Taking a double is real simple, because old rough grouse hunter, these are easy. They,
Yeah,
rough
right,
grouse,
right.
a rough grouse is going to go horizontally with very little rise in elevation, but those sharp tails have to get up over the canopy more, so they'll start to come right up, and that's pretty easy.
If you can take a rough grouse on the wing, you most likely will be able to take any upland bird on the
Yep,
wing because
yep.
just a challenge. I actually next week our show, I filmed a hunt on an island in the center of Lake Michigan in some of the most ridiculous cover I have ever walked, ever walked. But the birds were there, man. The birds were there.
Uh-huh.
So it's a fun bird on the wing. I know a lot of people do the trails. That happens down here as well. I grew up hunting rough grouse in Minnesota here, and yeah, it was common. I mean, you see them; they come out on the trails. But to get in after them, that's a
Yep.
true adventure. I don't imagine a lot of hunters travel all the way to Alaska to hunt rough grouse, though, do they?
No, I don't know of any. Generally, when a traveling hunter is up here, they're probably at a fishing lodge or another hunting lodge, and they find ptarmigan and decide, gee, we'd like to hunt ptarmigan, and so there's some of that. People will come here for that, that bucket list bird, the ptarmigan, and so ptarmigan get a lot
Mm-hmm.
of out of state hunting pressure, but um, well, hunting pressure. That's the wrong way to say that, because ptarmigan
Right,
are
right.
all over the place, But on the subject of the rough grouse being difficult to hit, I'm sure we'll get along here to talk about spruce grouse. And spruce grouse they get a lot of bad press, and rightfully so at sometimes. They don't seem to be the sharpest bird in the forest, but they'll sit too long. As a matter of fact, I'm fond of saying that a spruce grouse will sit as long as a woodcock will. It's I guess it's okay for the classic woodcock to sit right there in front of a dog's nose, but it's not so good for a spruce grouse to do that. But spruce grouse, it's kind of a funny deal. Is that people on the internet are always saying, "Oh, they're easy to shoot." Well, if you've been hunting rough grouse all morning in the thick woods and you've got you've only got maybe one grouse in your game bag, and you've got a pocket full of empties on one side, that you've missed a lot of birds. And all of a sudden, a spruce grouse gets up, and you don't even know what it is yet, and you shoot and you miss. And then you see, well, that was a spruce grouse, and you missed it. Well, it's like a change up pitch. They don't fly as good as a rough grouse. You're used to swinging through, and you'll shoot out in front of a spruce grouse real easy. But sometimes they'll fool you. They're hard to hit, and
Yeah.
but
I do have some experience with spruce grouse, and I will say the one bird that I did shoot, the one spruce grouse I shot here in Minnesota, that bird was up in the canopy. I mean, it was way up in the tops of the trees, and it was never on the ground at all. I mean, the dog smelt it up in the air. We had to
yeah.
try to find it, get it to go. Do those spruce grouse up there? Do they sit up in the trees, or you find a lot of them on the ground that flush?
Oh no, we find them on the ground, and the other thing that against them, I guess, is people don't like is that they flush and they jump right up in a nearby tree and sit there on the branch. Well, I don't mind them sitting on the branch. They don't really know about shotguns and humans, but really and ptarmigan catch the same sort of heat. And I'm fond of saying, I've always said this, is that any grouse really knows that to fly is to die. Um, all day long, 24/7, 365. They're getting away from eluding mammals. They're ground dwelling predators, and it's no big deal. They either flush a short distance or jump up in a tree or whatever. and But they know that to fly, their number one predators, or their top predators. The grouse will have the goshawk and the great horned owl, and the ptarmigan will have falcons. They do not want to fly. They'll do anything they can. A ptarmigan especially, they're the clear example. They will run out in front of you. They'll do anything that they can to keep from flying. And over the decades, I watch them a lot, and I photograph them and film them, and they're always one eye cocked up to the sky, and they're looking for predators. And unfortunately for the ptarmigan, their predator is going to come in at them on silent wings at about 100 miles an hour. So there's no sense looking up because you're already dead. But to fly is to die, really. That's why a lot of these wilderness birds, they just jump up on a tree branch, and some shake the branch and some walk away.
Speaking of predators, have you or your dogs ever run into wolves or grizzlies or any dangerous situations out there in the woods?
We've come close on a wolf, actually on a wolf pack, but that was just after we quit our ptarmigan hunt. And actually it was a moving experience for me because even though I was pretty tired being on snowshoes for several hours, and I had a few ptarmigan in the bag, that's all I needed, but I had a long drive to get home, but I just keep right on going. I loaded up my dogs and just drove up the road a short distance, and there was a wolf standing there. And I guess if we kept on hunting over that one ridge, then they would have had that contact with that wolf. But as an aside to bird hunting, I'll tell you that I got out and tried some photographs of that wolf, and it moved over the edge down. I thought down into a deep mountain valley, but my adage for wildlife photography is, and most things, is nothing ventured, nothing gained. So I went out there and I didn't even put my snowshoes on. I was post holing all the way out there, hoping that wolf was just over the edge, and turns out he wasn't. And I saw him across the valley about 800 yards away, and he was barking at me and howling. And I should have known better, because he wasn't barking and howling because he was happy. That was an aggressive move. And so I barked and howled back at him. Being an Irish guy, I'm not too smart about such things, I guess. You want to fight? And then the whole pack started howling and barking, and they were just over the ridge. So I thought, I better get back to the truck. But
This isn't the fight I want.
Yeah, I didn't have a gun. I didn't have anything. It was about 3 below zero then. The sun was going down. I thought, this isn't too smart. But grizzlies, we've had a couple of incidents with grizzlies, but only one of them was really scary. That was my old long gone dog Buddy. I write about him a lot in that book, but I think I wrote about that grizzly encounter too. But we're always alone, and every once in a while somebody else will go with me. But anybody that goes with me once normally doesn't want to go with me twice, because I walk a lot of miles and I don't bring lunch. And every time I have lunch when I'm out hunting, it seems as if somebody else goes with me and their wife made them lunch, and I have half of theirs. So, but I was way down in a wilderness valley that I'd never hunted before, and nobody knew where I was. I mean, there's no cell phone, there's no nothing, and it'd been a pretty sunny day, and I knew better. I was telling somebody about this the other day, talking about bear protection. I know better. I write about it. I saw grizzly tracks. I saw some scat, and I thought, well, that's a little old, so maybe he's long gone. And I was going to press forward a little bit more, just a little bit further down into the valley. It was an old wildfire burn area, and I wanted to find a bunch of sharp tails. And That's when Buddy went on point, but not a real point, because he looked at me and then he started barking. I thought, oh, good Lord.
Mm.
And of course, then a dog that's sometimes stubborn and doesn't want to come right back to heel, all of a sudden he's right there. Okay, boss, let's get out of here. He did a perfect heel there. And then it must have been a black cloud following us because it started raining. Boy, was I mad. I'm going to die. I'm carrying what was then a pretty new Arietta side-by-side 16 gauge. It's going to get wet. It's going to get dirty. That grizzly's going to throw it around and scratch it. And I got up on a little mound and I called him a bunch of nasty things. And I had those two 7.5 16 gauge 1 ounce shells in there, and I held two of my fingers, and I thought, come and get it. So he decided I was a little crazy, so I just backed off, and that was it. But the second time was really.
Hold on. You can't leave me hanging. How close was that bear to you?
Oh, heck, he had to be, I don't know, 25, 35 yards down there. He had a moose kill. But
Oh.
he didn't leave the moose kill. He didn't feel threatened enough to defend it. So when the dog retreated, and then I retreated, so he was on a kill. That's the worst deal. That and a sow with cubs. But but the second time was we were hunting a pretty tall mountain, actually, up the steep edge, and I was hoping there was some ptarmigan up there, and I just kept pushing up there, and there was a long line of alder that came down out of there, I think from an old mountain runoff stream. And it was two dogs, but it was old Buddy again. He came around those alders, and the wind was wrong, but he smelled something, and I knew that. And right then at about, I don't know, 25, 30 yards, something like that again, a great big grizzly just walked out of the alder. It was a gorgeous bear. And he just looked up at me. I looked at him, and he sauntered off. It was fall. He walked down the mountainside, the tundra, all the berry bushes. It was all magenta. A few small yellow aspens, with the leaves shaking in the wind, and it was just a beautiful setting. And enough wind that his long hair was just waving, and I'll never forget the image. But he just walked off. No big deal. So I a few close black bears here and there, but I don't know what the dogs see. God forbid, I don't know what they see. They probably see a lot of coyotes. They probably see a bear now and then, but no big problems. Bears don't really
Wow.
like us.
Do
Bears,
you?
bears are smart.
Yeah, they are. There's probably a lot of encounters that they escaped from without you even knowing it, meaning they
Yep.
just they ran like hell and got out of there
Yeah.
smelling you a long ways away or hearing you
Well,
or your
yeah.
dogs. But
Unlike humans, bears are not evil. They possess no evil. They just, they attack us and kill us for different reasons, but they don't do it out of evil like we do to each other. So they're pretty
God
nice
dang
critters.
it. Do you carry a handgun with you or the larger cartridge or anything like that as a protection?
I do when I'm fishing, but I generally don't when I'm bird hunting. I, every once in a while, if I don't know, something bothers me or there's people have seen bears in the area, I might, but I, it, I mean, bird hunting, especially when my coverts are, as big as New Jersey or something, it's, and I'm gone all day. I mean, geez, I carry what, 25 shells or something. I got two giant bottles of water for the dogs. I got a few survival things. I got a lot of stuff. I got
Mm-hmm.
a GPS transmitter and just a lot of stuff. And it's getting harder and harder to carry it all the time. So carrying a pistol is, I don't know.
Do you have
Sometimes
any idea the amount of stress you must put on your wife?
uh, uh, I don't know. She's gotten pretty used to it. It's with my other job. I mean, my other job was terrible. I was
Yeah.
called out all the time. I flew for the state too, so I would have a big shooting out in some rural community, and it's ongoing. And I was the I commanded the CERT team, so I'm the pilot, the CERT team leader, and the chief investigator. So, and I'm flying out in the darkness, going out to some crazy place to whatever. It's just the way it was. Pretty exciting, quite the adventure.
Do you fly your own planes too?
Not anymore, not anymore. But just too expensive, and it's a matter of coming up with the reason to do it. It's if you're going to,
Hmm.
well, it's for hunting. Oh, okay. So for 1 week a year, you're going to own that airplane, and you've got to fly often. Those that have an airplane and just fly every once in a while, they're the ones that get themselves killed. And it it was a real problem I had with the troopers too, because typical, your units are run by people that don't know what they're doing. That they've gotten this rank in this position, but they don't fly. They don't do any of this stuff. But they're better at buying tires and toilet paper and stuff like that. But they didn't like me going out flying.
Hmm.
What do you mean? That costs money. Well, you have to. You got to stay. You got to stay current. But yeah, I don't. I miss having an airplane. I miss having horses. I miss having a lot of stuff. But I don't know. You have to whittle back now and then. Sooner or later. And
Well, I experienced one of the most scary moments of my life in Alaska in one of those little Cub planes, and I thought I was going to die. I thought we were going to crash. Our plane did a full 360 in the air, scared the living bleep out of me. I can
yep,
remember it. I can remember it like it was yesterday.
yep,
Those pilots up there, my goodness, that's a whole nother story. But let's get back to the birds here. So, a
yep,
lot of people down here in the lower 48. I mean, we're familiar with ruffed grouse, right? They're
yep,
the king of the woods, right? They're
yep.
fast. But ptarmigan is really what gets people to say that's different. If I'm going up to Alaska, that's different. Describe where you find these birds, how they behave with dogs. Are they flighty or are they not? The
Yeah.
tundra. Walk me through a ptarmigan hunt.
Well, they're actually all over Alaska. There's not many places that you wouldn't find them. People don't generally go to Southeast Alaska to hunt birds because the ptarmigan. I mean, they're harder to get to. That thick, spruce forest, that Sitka spruce, and to get up to the mountaintops where some ptarmigan are isn't worth it. And I might throw in that that's where the blue grouse are in Alaska, and hardly anybody hunts them. I don't know anybody that hunts them with dogs. Guys hunt them in the spring and hooters, when they're hooting, and they shoot them out of the trees. So but ptarmigan, you can find them. Well, I've hunted ptarmigan all the way down on the southern tip of the Alaska Peninsula around Cold Bay. Uh, Friends of mine have hunted them down on Adak Island. They're all through there. I've hunted them in the Arctic and all over the interior, but most of it is in South Central, that south of the Alaska Range, and all in the Anchorage, Matanuska, Susitna area, all through there, the Chugach Mountains. Just get up above tree line, and that's where they are. And some people say, "Well, I did that and I didn't find them." Well, go do it again tomorrow. Yeah. Well, there wasn't any bird. No, no, no. Ptarmigan are here today and gone tomorrow. It's kind of like salmon fishing. When those 5 species of salmon come back to fresh water, you got to hit it right. And we we used to float rivers and fly fishing for salmon and whatnot. And somebody new along with us, they'd say, "Well, where are all the salmon?" "Oh man, it's too bad you weren't here yesterday." Yeah, and it's too
Right.
bad you can't be here tomorrow too, because they just kind of come and go. And ptarmigan do that. They have red meat, about as red meat as you could get, and of course that means they have oxygenated blood going through their flesh because they fly a lot. You know, I consider them little fugitives. That they dress in camo. And they try and blend in the community. They never sleep in the same place twice, and they're always moving around. It's like somebody's after them, because that's true. Somebody is after them, and they move around quite a bit. I have one place very close to home, and it's fairly well known for ptarmigan hunting. And sometimes it's about 1.5 miles, 2 mile circle. And of course, when I was younger, this was no big deal. Now I still groan when I have to do it a second time, but I'll hunt that whole circle on snowshoes, and I might see tracks, no birds. And I finish the circle. I'm back by the truck or the Jeep or something, and I just take a breather and say, oh, do it again. I'll go back down, and birds have flown into the area, and the dogs will find birds. They come and go. If they're chivied around by predators or whatever, they could just fly off to the other mountainside. They fly a lot, and you got rich dark meat, but they're interesting to hunt. I mean, most people say, well, yeah, I visited Alaska and I saw the ptarmigan. I could kill them with a rock. Well, that's maybe. You still got to be pretty good with a rock. But
that's right.
But again, it's to fly is to die. So there's nothing typical about these ptarmigan.
So what do you know? What?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
What is their what's their home range? I mean, how far will they travel?
We don't really know, but we're learning more all the time. My friends at Fish and Game, we finally, like, maybe 7-8 years ago, something like that. Fish and Game finally hired a couple of bird biologists. That's what they do. So I've worked with them quite a bit, and I might help them again later on this month with flushing surveys on sharptails. But we've gotten some money and radio collared some birds, and I've read all the books. I'm reading them all the time and watching the birds, and I've been a real good student of them, probably better than the biologists. But we still don't really know what they do because they vary so much. A buddy of mine, in the spring, we get to hunt ptarmigan here in the interior all the way till April 30th. So when it's really nice in March and April, boy, I tell you, we're out there all the time on snowshoes, losing weight and enjoying sunshine, lots of sunshine, blue skies, and lots of birds, but they're getting ready to breed, so we try not to shoot hens. Well, it's not as hard as when you're doing that with rough grouse. I mean, I'm doubtful that anybody can really tell a hen from a cockbird in flight. But anyhow, rock ptarmigan that we're hunting generally up here in the interior, the males, if you see them on the ground at all, you'll see that, well, one, he's probably alone, or he might have a couple of other males with him, but they'll have the red comb above their eyes and a black patch that goes all the way back behind their eye. So you can tell that's a male. All that to say that a bird got up, and it was actually it was several birds, and Ryan got a little confused and shot one, and it turned out to be a hen. And it had a collar on it. And generally, the literature and most people experience would say that after breeding, a hen will only go, I don't know, 1 mile or 2 miles, maybe 3 or 4 miles, maybe 10 miles. Well, this one went 150 miles.
Wow.
And then came back and got killed. They kind of do, wildlife does whatever they want, really. But there's been a lot of that sort of stuff. But they just get around. We know still very little about those birds, but a lot of our birds here in the interior come from up around the Brooks Range, at the foothills of the Brooks Range. They migrate up to 100 miles to come here in the late fall when the snow arrives. Matter of fact, that same place I mentioned that's close to home, with a lot of Nimrods that aren't students any of this stuff, they go up there in the fall, and they expend a lot of energy looking for ptarmigan, and I don't, because I know they're not there. They don't come there until probably mid-October, maybe November. They move around. And sometimes I'm out hunting them and in a big mountain valley, and you'll see them fly in from a long ways off and put down, and that's kind of fun. But the dogs,
Are they coveys?
yeah, they generally, yeah. Now, breeding rock ptarmigan, or even a cock willow ptarmigan will set up alone, looking for hens, but that's a different time of year. But mostly, yeah, they'll be in groups, small coveys to sometimes large coveys. At some times of the year, in some conditions, I've had 100 birds or so, which is crazy for a pointing dog. It'll make them go crazy. Yeah, but
Wow.
yeah, it's yeah, but they. I run pointing dogs. Well, I say dogs.
What
It's
breed?
Brittany's. I
Brittany's. Okay.
the sad part of my story is that I have to teach myself now for the first time in decades to say dog instead of dogs, because this has been a terrible year for me. And
Mm-hmm.
my 10-year-old Brittany, Charlie, died of cancer, and a slightly open gate and an over anxious 4-year-old Jake got out and ran down the road and out to the highway and was killed. So I'm down to one dog for the first time in a long time.
I'm
But
sorry, Jim.
well, that's the way it goes. It happens. But generally, I'll hunt 2 or 3 dogs, and this is what I like about pointing dogs over flushing dogs, especially for ptarmigan hunting, is that I can only cover so much country. Even in my really tough days, I'm limited. I can only do so much. But those dogs, as soon as I put them down and I say, hunt them up, boys, they're off, and they spread out and they bounce off of each other like billiard balls,
Yeah.
and they're covering a whole valley, and I let them get out there, 300-400 yards, maybe even more. Little Jake was worse. That boy had legs. He could get way out there, but I'd see him up there and I'd watch him, and bang, they point, and then I have to get up there. And that's when the rodeo starts. I just wrote an article on this about dancing with ptarmigan, because I wasn't much of a dancer when I was a kid, but boy, I sure as hell had to become a good dancer on snowshoes up there at times, because I've got to get up to where that dog's pointing. I got to get up there as quick as I can, and if they hold for the dogs, and they often do, they'll just sit right there, because they don't worry about it. They've gotten away from mammals all day long, every day. It's to fly is to die. But certainly when an orange-clad hunter on noisy snowshoes and with bulging eyes and heaving lungs shows up on scene, they're like, "Dude, this is enough. We're out of here," and they'll start to run off. And what I've learned too is, and advice to anybody that hunts them, is to just let them settle down a little bit. And like I say, I'm generally alone, but I do a flanking maneuver, and generally that's to get uphill of them a little bit, and then when I'm abeam the flock, and I'll just head right down until I'm within shotgun range, and then just try and keep my footing, so anticipating which way they're going to go, and then I get a shot or two. But sometimes they run a lot. It's a real race, and it can be very
So
frustrating.
it's like in some ways, like chasing pheasants down here. They like to run too, but the
Yep.
ground is just so much different, so much
Yeah.
flatter. I mean,
Yeah, and you're watching them, and you can just imagine that, they're flipping you off or they're saying something to you, but well, then they just
mhm.
flush out of range. But that's okay. In your earlier days, you'd be frustrated and angry, but now it's like, whatever, extended my day. Now we'll hunt them up again, and it's no big deal.
So will they fly up the mountain and over to the other side, or how far do they normally go?
That's another thing that varies. Sometimes they leave Alaska and go to Siberia or something, but generally, no, they'll go 400, 500, 600 yards, something like that, maybe, and up the mountain or down, and you can go find them again. But as luck has it, most of the times there's so many birds around. It's generally a target-rich environment that I usually find other birds before I get to the ones I was going back for a second try on. So we
So
we never cease to get some kind of action on ptarmigan.
during a normal ptarmigan hunting day, during the peak season, what does a normal bird count look like for you? How many birds will you come across? How many coveys do you think you'll see? How many birds will you flush? How many shots will you get? Will you take?
Boy, that's like sounds like a Texas quail hunting thing. You're going to put up 20. You're going to see 20 coveys today. No, there's no guarantee. I usually see if I see 20 birds and I take two, I'm happy. But there's days you see a ton of them. There's four over here. You go up there. There's eight, and uh, it's just like that. But I have other days, and I think I wrote about one of these days in my book. Is that I hunted hard all day long in deep snow. Back then, I was using wood snowshoes, the ones I used to carry on my airplane, and they don't have cleats on them. And once you get above the thick or the deep snow, the soft snow, up to where the rock ptarmigan are, and that's all wind blown and icy. Well, I'm not a downhill skier, but I tried. It's you know, and you're carrying a real nice shotgun, so you're basically a one-armed guy, trying to get on, sliding on down the hills and whatnot. But my dogs and we hunted hard all day, and I think we put up 3 birds and maybe, and I never shot one, and that was a rarity. That the joke around the house now is that my wife would always she would expect that I'm always coming home with birds. Usually once or twice a year, I'd come home empty-handed, and that was generally on ptarmigan because they just left. But the joke was that, so where were you all day? No, well, I don't go to bars, so no, I just, but I came home that one day, and before I got to my road, there's a McDonald's. I'll be darned, it was a pretty nice covey right there in the parking lot at the McDonald's, right here in
No
town.
way.
Those were willow ptarmigan, though, and sometimes, people around here talk. We'd have willow ptarmigan all over downtown Fairbanks, all over the place, or mostly along the edges, the willow edges, and just outside of town, not necessarily right downtown, but they come into town when it's inclement in the mountains. They come down low and get along the rivers, and we're surrounded by rivers, so yeah, you could see ptarmigan flying through town now and then.
Unreal.
Yeah, they're an amazing bird, but they do hold well, except when they don't, and they're a lot like pheasants. Yeah, they are. They'll sometimes you just got to corral them, but and then we have those occasions too where they hold so well that open chokes are pretty good, and it's pretty easy to shoot them. But and doubles are pretty easy. But a unique thing about ptarmigan too is if you watch them enough when they flush, some of them must have watched the video on the Hells, not the Hells Angels, excuse me, the Blue Angels. That's a different group, isn't it? Yeah, it's they fly together, and they're just like they're going in pairs. There's two ptarmigan together, and I shoot side by sides, and on occasion I'll shoot 3, but every once in a while I take 2 doubles, just because you take that lead bird and you drop him and you go to the next lead bird, and heck, there were 2 of them flying right close together. So it's it can be pretty interesting. A lot of fun.
What's the limit on ptarmigan?
It varies. It varies. Because now there are more and more bird hunters. And the big game seasons are getting shorter. The restrictions are getting tougher. Some of it's lottery. A lot of people are now turning to bird hunting, and unfortunately, those bird hunters are like for ptarmigan are on snow machines, and they'll take. Well, it used to be 20 birds in a day, and people see. I guess they see limits as a goal to reach, and that's not good. It's and Fish and Game told me they had one group out of Anchorage that they had a little club going, and they were killing 400 or 500 ptarmigan every month,
Wow.
and just going out with a 22 on snow machine and picking them off. And so they had to lessen it, but so it's generally about 10 birds, and that's a lot of birds. A lot
That's
of
a
birds.
lot of birds. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Wow.
even though ptarmigan aren't that big, I mean, that's still a lot of birds to shoot and to clean. And I wouldn't want to
Hmm.
do it every day. I don't. Um,
Right.
there's been occasion I've taken 10 birds, but I'm putting up, you know, I'm seeing 100, 150 birds in a day, So and
Hmm.
if I got a young dog, I might take 10, but generally I just take a few birds.
Well,
And
I think if you're a guy from or gal from somewhere down here, let's say you're from Iowa and you've got
yeah,
this
yeah,
dream to hunt up in Alaska, and you have a day like that where you have the opportunity to take 10 birds and you do it while walking with bird dogs, and you say, damn, that is the most incredible day
yep,
of bird hunting of my life. I'll probably never top it.
yep,
In that instance, yeah, a 10 birds, I'd say,
no problem.
uh, yep, yep. But not the guy on the snow machine that does it every day for a month,
Well,
and that,
yeah, and then there's always a difference, So wilderness birds too. I mean, if you're hunting out of a wilderness lodge or fishing out of a wilderness lodge, and you do in the fall and you go do a little ptarmigan hunting, no big deal, really. I mean, um, it, those birds are going to replenish, no big deal. But right off the road in highly hunted areas, yeah, it gets a little much. But in my own area here, where I hunt until April 30th in the spring, um, we lobbied Fish and Game to do something, because you're coming into breeding season, and to take a full limit of birds it's not right. And so they were going to close it all together. That's why we went and talked to them. But that was many years ago. And they said, "Well, how many would you think?" And I said, "Well," because they said there was too many people just driving up into the mountains along the roads and finding ptarmigan and shooting them up and shooting a lot of hens. And I said, "Well, how about 3 birds? I know I'd be happy if I had 3 birds in a day. I don't care how far I drove or how hard I worked." So we compromised on 5, and 5 birds. So 5 birds in your bag is pretty darn good.
that's a pretty darn good day. Jim, I
Yeah.
feel like we could talk for hours here about
Oh,
stuff. There's so much
yeah.
more that I want to learn. Will you come back another time and help me dig into some more, because I really want to talk about public land opportunities.
Yep.
Um, I still have more questions today, but I feel like there's just so much. I mean, just like your state and the birds you hunt, there's so much to dig into there. But
Yeah.
I think you know, for most bird hunters, Alaska seems intimidating. Is it realistic for a non-resident to come up and go hunting on their own and find success up there?
No, not at all. Not at all. It's there's the rough grouse. Like I say, there's plenty of open land. I mean, there's more no trespassing signs now than there ever was in the past decades, but there's lots of open ground where you can go and you'll never see another bird hunter. Certainly for rough grouse, sharptails. There's a lot of public land around the Delta Junction area that you'll find sharptails. Ptarmigan, that's all public land. Just get above tree line and walk around. It's a matter of how much effort you put into it, how many miles.
So
Sharptails.
you're saying it is realistic to have success.
Oh yes, oh yeah. You don't need a
Okay.
guide. There's very few people guiding for bird hunters, and I'd been asked to guide for ptarmigan hunters by different lodges and guides, but their problem is that there's birds today and there's no birds tomorrow. So it's
Hmm.
they're here today and they move around, But yeah, there's really no guide, but you can do it on your own. There's lots of room to move around, and good work for a dog. Uh, the sharp-tails, we didn't mention much in that, and I know you're short for time, but we're building habitat constantly. About 1 million acres of Alaska burns every year with wildfire burns, and that's great for the sharp-tails. After 2 or 3 years after the fire, when it's starting to green up a little bit, uh, the berries are coming back. Those places are a good place to find sharp-tails. The problem is there's a lot of space between them. That's that's the problem. But
when does your bird season open? I know you said it runs till April 30th, but when does it open?
in most places, August 10th, very early. And I may go out hunting
Wow.
on August 10th, but I don't even shoot. I just for rough grouse, they're still pretty young and naive, so we school them. And but I really get going in this one area east of here for sharp-tails opens on August 25th, and that's when I really start going into high gear. And I lay my fly rod aside for a little bit and start hunting birds, and then it's September. Boy, I'll tell you, that's my greatest month, but it's the month that's going to kill me. It's I love it.
Why?
Well, the rainbows are big. It's good to go fly fishing. The grayling are big and hungry, and great dry fly fishing. Oh man! And then there's wildlife to photograph. I think for my 71st birthday, I'm going to climb up into the mountains and photograph doll rams again. And there's rough grouse hunting, and get down
You
into
are
the Denali Highway where there's lots of ptarmigan, and set up camp and hunt ptarmigan. And yeah, by the time October rolls around, I'm like, well, it's like that guy approaching those ptarmigan up on the mountainside. My eyes are bulging, my lungs are heaving, and I need a break.
Oh my gosh, you are a machine. You are an absolute machine. I have a million more questions. I think to do this right, I should just come up and spend a couple months with you, Jim. I feel like
you
that would be
know,
the right thing to do.
you know.
Oh my goodness.
I like good bourbon.
Well, we've never filmed a flush episode in Alaska to this point yet, and I think it belongs. There's two places that I have to go. It's Alaska and Hawaii, and I need to flush a bird in both of those places before my run is through.
You should do
And I
that.
actually I just looked today because I was curious. I went to Delta and I looked at the round trip flights from Minneapolis to Fairbanks, and I just said like roughly September 10th through the 15th, something like that. $500. That's not
Piece of
bad.
cake. Not bad. I
That's
think you pay
that's
$100
not
for it.
bad.
I think it's 100. I think it's 50 or $100 for an out-of-state license now or something like that. It's not bad, but yeah. And then it's you just kind of mosey around and do whatever you want. But you ought to do a show.
Jeez.
As far as I know, only one show has been done, and that was Harley Jackson and I did one on ptarmigan hunting back when he had American Gun Dog, and that's no longer around. But we had a blast. Of
Well, okay. Here's the deal then. You have to think of if you could draw up the perfect like 3 days or 4 days of bird hunting in Alaska, what would it be and when? And then we'll talk about this a little bit more and
Okay.
see if we can't make that happen. But the problem is, Jim, I'm going to be honest here. The problem is I might not leave. If I get up there, I'm telling you,
That's all right.
oh gosh,
I
it's
know.
amazing. You live in paradise.
Well, don't bring your wife. So there you go. So you'll live. You'll go back.
Okay. Okay. Well, I could talk for more. We're going to do another podcast. We have to because
Okay.
I have so many more questions. But your book can be bought on Amazon still. It's Upland Hunting in Alaska. Where can people follow you in your photographs?
Oh gosh, I'm on Facebook and Instagram. I'm on Instagram. My daughter just talked me into doing that. I just started that, but Jim McCann Outdoors and my website is jimmccanoutdoors.com.
Fantastic.
And
Thank you very much. We will definitely stay in touch. We'll figure out. Hopefully, people enjoyed some of the stories. I have a lot more questions for you. We'll visit again soon, my friend.
sounds good. Had a good time. Have
Thanks,
a good
Jim.
day. Bye.
Thank you. You as well. We will catch you next week. I'm not sure where we're going to be next week or who we're going to be talking with. I have a couple of really interesting topics I want to dig into. I want to call Jim back right away and plan my trip to Alaska. Maybe you should too. It seems like it's an adventure that, well, I'm positive it will be an adventure, bird in hand or not, that you will remember the rest of your life. We'll catch you next time on the Flush Podcast.